What's up, RXD? Let's take a look at Sunday, April 26th Nchiit workout. We are looking at what they're going to call a triple AMRAP. So we have 3 consecutive AMRAPs. Each will last 5 minutes, and you get 2 minutes of rest in between each one. So here's the deal. Typically, we think of that 5-minute time frame as pretty short, which I believe we are right. It is not a lot of time, but here's the catch, the kicker, whatever you want to call it. Because we only have one movement, to fill 5 minutes with one movement, so continuous activity, oh man, you're gonna feel like it's a long time. So we are preaching about that thing that I always preach about, which is consistency. I want to see how well can we just move for those 5 minutes. There shouldn't be any increase or decrease in speed or effort. It may feel a little bit boring, mundane, but this is the type of work that we need to do so that we can do all the other types of work. We just need to be able to kind of stay at that steady state. So let's take a look at that first movement. It is going to be a backpack burpee deadlift. It is going to be very similar to that first part of our like a devil's press. So let's take a look. I have my backpack, something that's a little bit heavier. I wanted to challenge you, but obviously isn't going to be a heavy deadlift. So I want to be able to hold it at the sides. Cool thing is I'm going to push up off of this backpack, so my range of motion is slightly shortened, but that doesn't mean this is going to be easier. So let's take a look. I have my backpack at my standing position. I'm going to go ahead and deadlift, so I need to be able to hinge. So my hips are going to go back. I'm going to try and keep my back nice and flat. Still use my hips appropriately. Go ahead and set this thing down. I'm going to fly my feet back, push up against my backpack, fly my feet forward, and then stand all the way to the top. What I want to see out of you guys is how well can you control that kick out to plank position, push up, and then kick your feet back in. So we can make the movement longer, which is typically harder, but then we also need a gauge for us to make sure that we're not going so fast. So if it's like a 1 count, okay, 1, chest, 1, backpack to the ground, 2, kick feet out, 3, push up. Whatever you have to do to signal to yourself a certain pattern. That way you don't fall out of that pattern, or if you don't have a pattern to begin with, you don't know how to gauge how fast you should go. And it is very important that we do so. Let's take a look at the next movement. It is a distance run. So we're probably going to be around our neighborhood. You probably have run enough times around it so you know where you might take yourself if you're doing a 200, a 400, an 800 with this distance run for 5 minutes straight. If we were all really good mile runners, then I'd tell you, hey, look to run a mile. What I would like to see out of you guys is somewhere between 1,000 meters and 1,200 meters. I know it's like, I don't know how far that is. So I would like to see something like a 7-minute pace. Even if you can't run a mile in 7 minutes, again, we're only running for 5 minutes. So I'm going to ask you to push the pace and try and end up in that 1,000 to 1,200 meter mark. If you do have the ability to track your distance, this is a perfect place to try and do so. Make sure you don't go too far away, because you do have to come back to wherever you're at, unless you're pretty comfortable working out where you're where you're not at home, because the next movements do not require you to travel anywhere. So we're looking at that third movement or movements, which will be rotating between 5 push-ups and 10 air squats. So what we want to make sure that we're doing on the burpee beforehand in movement number 1 is that we aren't taxing our push-up too much. So the more that we, even though I ask you to control your push-up motion, try your best not to add a tempo. You're gonna have to drop to the ground a little bit faster than you think. That way you're not spending so much time under tension with your already push-up position, because we have more later and you'll end up doing a lot more. So we wanna make sure that we're not already setting ourselves up poorly once we get to these push-ups and air squats. What I wanna make sure that we're doing is that we can keep our hips away from the ground. So I always cue there should be a little bit of space between your hips and the ground. And that when we do our push-up, notice how my hand and my elbow are about 90 degrees. That means my hand is right kind of at my ribs. So I want to be careful. Most of you guys do your push-ups with that hand higher and that elbow rotated to the outside, and you complain about shoulder pain. I want you to take a look at my shoulder right here. It is a very exposed position. Not that it's bad, but most of us don't have the ability to load that position and stay strong there over time. So even one rep for some people could be like, ooh, wow, my shoulder. So we want to try and take that out of the equation by pulling the shoulder blade back and down, and think about pushing the ground away versus just bending from the elbow and trying to push you up, even though it is called a push-up. So we have 5 push-ups and then 10 air squats. I want to make sure that we can do this. Plant my feet on the ground. If I came up to you and I wanted to push you, I could, but it'd be tough, right? I want to see how well can we stay rooted. Kind of create those arches with our feet. When I squat down, my hips are going to go back, so I can come a little bit forward as long as I stay straight with my back. So it should be hips go back, I can go forward as long as I stay straight. My hips are going to sit in between my ankle, and then I can stand up all the way. So my knees, hips, shoulders are all in a straight line. When we do this, I know you guys can easily bust out 5 and 10 in like 20 seconds. We're not going to want to do that because we need to see that consistent pace. So this is a huge challenge for you guys. I would love your feedback on this triple AMRAP. So as always, if you got any more questions or anything to say, please hit me up, or any of us coaches. We would love to talk to you. This is your NC HIIT workout for Sunday the 26th.